Let me start today with the truth nobody in government, no developer, and no banking executive wants to hear out loud. Affordable living has become illegal in America. Not by accident, not because tiny homes are unsafe, not because they don't fit the character of the neighborhood either. No, affordable living is illegal because it threatens the revenue system that cities, counties, and corporations now depend on. And nothing exposes that truth faster than a tiny home. Because the moment a working class person, a senior citizen, a single mom, or a disabled American can plan a small, safe, simple home on a piece of land and live without a 30-year mortgage, the entire system loses control. Today we're going to talk about why tiny homes are being banned, why zoning laws don't protect you, they protect profit, and why thousands of Americans are being denied the right to simply exist on their own land. So let's dig in. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe to the channel, take a moment and do so. It'd really help out. Let's be clear. If tiny homes were causing fires, collapsing under snow loads, or poisoning the groundwater, we'd have national headlines every week. But we don't. The problem isn't that tiny homes are dangerous. The problem is that tiny homes are dangerous to the business model. A tiny home means no $400,000 mortgage, no massive property tax bill, no endless utility hookups, no developer fees, and no state permits generating thousands of dollars. No HOA structure extracting monthly cash. No 30 years of interest payments feeding the banks either. You see the theme here? It's all about money. It always is. A tiny home gives people independence, and the system doesn't know how to profit from independent people. So they ban them, quietly, strategically, and systematically. Zoning used to be about public health and safety. Now it's a Trojan horse. Cities realized something years ago. If they set a minimum square footage for homes, usually 800 feet, 1,000, or even 2,000 square feet, tiny homes disappear overnight. Then they added mandatory foundation requirements, prohibitions on living in RVs, bans on compost toilets, electrical hookup mandates, restrictions on rainwater collection, minimum lot sizes you can't afford. None of these exist to keep you safe. They exist to keep you paying. Because if you're forced into a large, expensive home, you're forced into higher taxes, utilities, insurance, mortgage, higher maintenance, fees, and you're basically locked in. That's what zoning is designed to do today. Zoning is no longer about planning communities. It's about maintaining revenue. Here's something that they don't really tell you. And banks don't like tiny homes because they can't securitize the debt. A bank can take a $400,000 mortgage, slice it into financial instruments, and sell it off to investors. That's profit, that's Wall Street, and that's the game. We all know it. But you take a $40,000 home, a $50,000 build on private land, it's not worth securitizing. It's not worth the paperwork. So banks lobby hard for minimum home sizes and code requirements that make tiny homes impossible. Not everywhere, mind you, but it's the growing trend that we're seeing today. Now, this isn't conspiracy, mind you. This is public record. This is lobbying at the local and state level. You wonder why every single affordable housing committee never talks about tiny homes? Because they're funded by the same people who profit from keeping homes expensive in the first place. When you build a tiny home, you might choose solar, composting toilet, rainwater storage, propane heating, or a wood stove like I do. You know what that means? The utility monopolies make $0 from you. The electric company doesn't get your monthly tribute. The water company doesn't get your hookup fee. The sewer company doesn't get your per gallon bill. And the trash company doesn't get your service charge. So counties quietly pass laws that require mandatory sewer connections, grid connections, water hookups, and they're banning on full-time off-grid living. Again, it's not for safety, it's for revenue. If you think cities want a population of financially self-sufficient people generating no monthly utility income, I've got bad news for you. One of the biggest tricks they use is requiring a permanent foundation. They claim it's about safety. Bull. It's about taxes. A home on wheels is often taxed as personal property. A home on a foundation becomes real estate. And real estate means ongoing taxable income for the county. Foundations also raise property value, taxable value. They prevent mobility, tie you permanently into the jurisdiction. Again, it's not about safety. It's about making sure you never leave and never stop paying. Let's talk about seniors because nobody else will. Tiny homes are one of the last few remaining lifelines for older Americans who can't afford rent or can't make their Social Security stretch far enough. And they're being priced out of mobile home parks, as we've discussed before, or are one medical bill away from homelessness themselves. A tiny home means freedom. It means aging with dignity. It means not being forced into a dangerous rental market. But to counties, it means a senior who won't be paying $1,200 a month in rent, $300 a month in utilities, $2,000 a year in taxes, $200 in garbage fees. You see the pattern here. So they ban the lifeline. They regulate the escape hatch. They destroy the only affordable housing option left for millions of Americans because it doesn't profit them. One of the biggest lies they tell us is that tiny homes lower neighborhood standards. Really? Have they looked at the crumbling 80-year-old houses in half of America's cities? Have they inspected the rotting rentals charging $1,500 a month? Have they evaluated the mold-filled apartments owned by corporate landlords? Hell no. Tiny homes, when built properly, are much more efficient, they're structurally sound, and they're environmentally responsible. And they're affordable. But none of that matters when the real agenda is financial here. They say tiny homes lower property values. Well, I guess that means tiny homes lower tax revenue. Well, of course it does. They say tiny homes don't fit the character of the neighborhood. Well, that's because they don't want poor people to survive, and we can't have that. So, this is happening everywhere, guys. Counties are bulldozing tiny homes because they weren't on foundations. Not everywhere, mind you, but in some areas, yes. Seniors are being evicted from RVs on their own property. Veterans are forced out of their cabins for non-compliance. Disabled people told their housing wasn't up to code. You know, and the pattern goes on and on. You know, landowners are being told they can't live on the land they paid off. You know, so, I mean, in my opinion, this goes against our Constitution. And I think, and if you believe that, drop a line in the comments below. I'd like to hear. You know, after all, I mean, people are just trying to live within their means here. And the system is punishing us for it. Because when you live cheaply here, you stop feeding the machine, and they don't want that. All right, let's put everything on the table here. You know, tiny homes are being banned because they represent freedom. Let's face it here. Freedom from debt, utilities, banks, and landlords, and government fees. Tiny homes are banned because they reveal a secret. You don't actually need a $400,000 home to survive. But they need you to believe you do. They need you in debt. They need you to keep paying. They need you financially weak and dependent. After all, a tiny home destroys that dependency. And that's why they're being banned. All right, here's my final thought, and I'll wrap up. Here's what I want you to take from today. This isn't just about small houses. This is about the right to live simply, to live affordably, to live independently, and to live on your own land without being dragged into a financial system designed to squeeze every last